January 22nd, 2025. We're gonna call the meeting to order. Any of the conflict of interests? Be seeing none. Approve of the agenda?
Move.
Go ahead.
Excuse me, Chair, I would suggest that we move 6J, which is a vehicle purchase tender, up to B2 with a couple of other items. And there was discussion about maybe moving item C on our budget discussions to the end of the agenda.
Is everyone good with that?
I'm just wondering, Paul, why are we dealing with the operation? I thought we were just trying to deal with capital. This happened yesterday at another meeting.
There's been some requests for committee agenda items that are on operational issues that we will provide information on.
But we're not deciding on the operational budget today, recommending, are we?
I'm giving you a review of the budget that's been drafted to date. It goes to as we'll discuss, goes to the finance committee at the end of the month, and it'll come to council of the whole, committee of the whole. Thank you.
We're all good with that? And I'd like to sort of welcome John McAleer. He's away, he's calling in today. John, welcome. Okay, adoption of the minutes, December 4th.
Moved.
Moved by your worship, second by Councillor Drown. Was there any business arising from those
None.
previous minutes? None? Councillor McAleer? No business?
No,
Thank you very much.
no.
Okay, let's get right into the reports. First one is 2025 half-ton crew cab work truck 4x4. A lot of numbers in there. Paul, would you like to look after that?
Yes, Chair. Tender publicly issued for 25 half-ton crew cab 4x4 as indicated. This is to be a replacement vehicle in the Public Works Department. Checking my notes, sorry, in the Recreation Department, replacement vehicle in the Recreation Department. 3 submissions, and the recommendation is for the low tender.
Any questions in there?
Oh, moved.
We would then send that on
To
to Finance Department for a resolution.
Thank you very much. Okay, the 72-inch grade front mower lawnmower.
Yes,
Front mount lawnmower.
again, a public tender for a 72-inch commercial grade mower. It will be a replacement vehicle in the Rec Department. And 2 submissions were made, very close. We are recommending the award to the low submission.
When you say replacement vehicles, so the other ones are just done? Like for the truck, Joey, maybe, and then for this? Or are they gonna be?
They're at the end of their lifespan.
Yeah.
Yes,
Sure,
exactly.
it's
End
costing
of
us more
life.
money.
They would be removed from the city's inventory,
Okay.
whether it's to the junkyard or whether we're able to sell it for a couple of bucks.
Okay, okay.
Moved.
Moved by your worship, second by Councillor Drum. Then we're gonna go to J.
We'll get down to J, which was a boom flail for the Recreation Department. This is a new piece of equipment to be attached to an existing sidewalk trackless machine. Again, went to public tender. There was only 1 submission received. Staff, both Public Works and Recreation, have reviewed, feel that the piece is acceptable and is a reasonable price considering their probable estimate at the time of tender. The budget is in place, and we would recommend purchase of that through Finance Committee Council resolution.
Councillor Drum, you good with that?
Shoot.
Moved by Councillor Drum, second by your worship. Councillor McAleer, sorry, I should be asking you too. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, in favor?
Okay, thank you. Okay, thanks for those 3, Paul. 18 Trainer Street. Richard, are you gonna handle this one? This
Draft
is,
budgets.
no, the draft is gonna go at the end,
Leave that to him.
Yes.
Okay.
yes. That came from Councillor McKinney, the other day, and notice a motion to put it on the agenda. Would you like to speak in that, Richard, or is that being looked after, or is looked after?
Paul prepared the report for
Yep.
you.
Oh, I'm sorry, Paul.
It was raised, yep, that's fine. Was raised at council with a request that the Public Works Committee look at our bylaws. It is an operational matter that has been ongoing. Staff from various departments, police, planning, Public Works, have been looking into it and attending as best we can, or as we can, recognize various interests of the residents in the area and the development that's going on. Probably with conflicting concerns, we're not satisfying everybody at every moment, but continue to operationally work at that and try and get everybody satisfied that we can move forward with residential life as well as development in our city.
Okay, could I suggest that somebody get back to Councillor McKinney with his findings? Because he's been getting emails crazy from a lot of people up there, from residents, and just say this is where we're at with this.
We can circle back, as you should be aware, our comms department has also
Okay,
been providing us with some statements that we can make, because yes, there has been significant public comment received.
okay, everyone go with that?
Could I just ask?
Yes, go ahead, your worship.
Well, all your years with Public Works, have you ever received a request like this from neighboring properties?
Time to, well, I'm not sure, your worship, time to time, we've had concerns with gravel trucks hauling from the wharf, having their load spill off onto various streets, especially for motorcyclists. We've had other developments where they are digging and whatever, they're into, depending on the weather, into the mud, and sometimes difficult to get that off the tires and in the frame of the vehicle until it starts rolling down the street.
But we don't go behind them and clean up to them, no.
Once Public Works does not have, is not issuing the development permits or permits to drive your vehicle on the street, we do not have any direct enforcement capabilities, so if Public Works is gonna go out there and clean it up, I'm unaware of any way we can bill that back to anybody.
Right.
Public Works helps out assisting, saying, excuse me, I see you dropped your load, would you mind cleaning it up?
Right.
Or I see you're doing
Yes.
some work there, could you try and wipe your tires, whatever? But in terms of a heavy hammer, Public Works doesn't have that, and like I say, if we go and do work, it may well end up on the public expenses from everybody in the city as opposed to those who are actually causing the concern.
Right, so some of the email exchanges, Mr. Chair, on this issue, have included the bylaw enforcement officer with planning, and I think she's following up on it. So if we have to go out, she has some concerns, and we have to go out and clean up, we would clean up and then bill the contractor, correct? Similar to what we do with dilapidated on-site hazardous properties.
If that was possible, dilapidated unsightly properties is per our bylaw, and
Yeah.
that's the city going on to private lands.
Right.
And through council, Public Works having the authority to do it and to build back. This is issues on public lands. And like I said, so far, I don't know what the mechanism is, and so far, there's been no council directive for the Public Works Committee to build back that's in a directive in a legal manner that we actually can.
Because once we
but-
started, we're into it.
Yep,
That's
but our
right.
bylaw officers have been heavily involved, both bylaw police and bylaw planning have been heavily involved in trying to create conditions that everybody's content with.
Thank you.
Councillor Drown, anything on that?
Oh, good, thanks.
Councillor McAleer, you good with that?
All good?
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Chair, just
Oh,
for
sorry.
the purpose of clarity, it's on the developer to
Yes.
clean up. I don't know if we've actually articulated that in this conversation. It's the developer's responsibility. So that needs to be understood when people are complaining as well, that we have to put the onus back on the developer to clean up their messes.
And I think that's what our bylaw officers are basically doing, they're talking to them, so.
Yeah.
So let's hope it all gets settled and solved.
Where there's construction, there is disruption.
Yep,
Oh, yeah.
understood.
I think that the contractor, most contractors have done a good job in ensuring that cleanup has been addressed.
Okay. E, traffic flow, Allen, Beasley at St. Peter's Road. Your worship,
I brought that
you
up.
brought that up, please?
So a number of residents have talked about this intersection. The photo that's in your package is going, I'm gonna say north, because St. Peter's Road is east-west, so they're going north. And that traffic, when it is going through and someone wants to turn north or turn east on St. Peter's Road, take a left, traffic backs up to the point where they're at the Mount Everett Road roundabout. So we have and I know, Riley, I don't know if you were part of it, but the intersection of at Euston, Pownell, and Spring Park Road. East-west traffic on Euston flows when the lights go. But if I'm on Spring Park Road heading south onto Pownell, I have a green light with a turn light going onto Euston, and all traffic stop. I'm asking if, is this something we can do here just to keep that traffic flowing, north on Allen onto Beasley? Or Paul?
May give Paul a chance to
Sorry,
say
sorry.
first, but
Various intersections in the city, Public Works always willing to hear any concerns about them in the operations of our traffic flow. Have indicated in the report that may not have been aware of it, public concerns before, but are now. Thank you very much. We will take a look into that. It may require some time to gather traffic data, to run traffic modeling that would, we don't have in-house. We might need a consultant to do that. But we will see what can be done to create a level of service improvements at that intersection. And at some point, we'll bring back to the committee a bit of a conclusion on the matter as to what we've determined, possible, not possible, options.
Yeah, I'm not asking, my request is not the traffic coming off Beasley and heading south onto Allen. That traffic tends to flow quite
Yeah, it does.
well. It's just Allen Street between St. Peter's Road and Mount Everett Road is a short street. And because that's our east-west corridor, yeah, that's right, it's an east-west, so North Road must be your north-south, is it, Bobby? Okay. Anyways, that's our east-west corridor, so
And it's a blind turn for all
It is.
intents and purposes. When you're trying to turn left on St. Peter's Road, it's a blind turn. You can't see the vehicles coming up around.
A lot of this issue started when they started the Eastern Gateway, because people couldn't get down that way, and
Right.
they're coming up that way, because I know I come over there 2 or 3 times a day on Allen Street, and it's backed up further, it's backed up right to the,
roundabout.
Bible's admission sometimes.
Wow.
Yeah, but that was when, this summer, when it was going on, but, and I discussed this with you, your worship, Paul, maybe where Murphy's Pharmacy is, or Riley, whoever's there, there's no turning signal on those lights, like that would sort of take some of the pressure off, if I'm coming by Allen Street and then I'm at St. Peter's Road, and if I wanted to go out north of St. Peter's Road, if there was a turning signal, like that would get through some of the traffic right there, right? But now it just sits there until somebody waves you through.
for sure, those are a few of the things we'll definitely look at with
Yeah.
this intersection. Every approach at that intersection is single lane, so it's
Yes, that's
a
right.
shared left through and
Yeah.
right lane.
Okay.
There are definitely some property and, just width and geometric constraints to potentially adding a left turn
Yeah.
lane, as you mentioned. If that were to happen, there's also some signal hardware upgrades that we'd have to do.
Oh, okay.
But we'll certainly look at all
Yeah.
those factors and the potential for, as his worship mentioned, what we call split phasing, which would potentially separate the
East-west traffic.
east-west traffic
Yeah.
to two separate
Okay.
phases, so.
Yeah.
And Paul, Riley, I know from living in Spring Park Road, I take that intersection every time I'm heading downtown. And at first, it was frustrating because the vehicles are stopping and there's no traffic moving. But now you see the advantage of it, that traffic moves very efficiently going north-south on Pownell and Spring Park Road. Thank you.
Somebody that in your capable hands?
Yep, we'll certainly look at it and report back.
Thank you for that. Where are we at here? F, surplus land review. Is that you again, Paul?
Yes, again, matter that's been brought up and I think was in front of the previous version, previous membership of the Public Works Committee. back in July 2024. A presentation from Habitat for Humanity talking about their good work and how they do that. There was discussions about what lands in the city might be commented to the Finance Committee for surplus granting to somebody or whatever is determined. There's no set decisions as of yet, obviously. Some of that was land at the end of Beach Street where the city had been creating a connector between Beach Street and Park Street. When I look into it, there had been a single parcel that we now have a street on. The survey work has not yet been complete to delineate that road right-of-way and subdivide the parcel to delineate the road right-of-way and create what could be potentially residential lots at the end of Beach Street. When we get that survey work completed, we would then forward the matter on to the Finance Committee per that meeting in July 2024 that talks about Beach Street properties and some other potential properties or structures that the city may want to consider what they're going to do with in the future.
Okay.
So again, just sort of a placeholder report that hasn't been forgotten. We'll be continuing to move on in an operational manner, and we'll report back as we reach a conclusion. May not well be next month, but at some point in the near future.
No, and if I could just add,
Yes,
Mr.
go
Chair,
ahead.
on July 17th, we also talked about, we have 3 structures. 2 on Mount Everett Road and 1 on Maple that have to eventually move because those properties, one on Maple Avenue is the one that Mrs. Doucette owned and lived in. We have purchased the property and the structure, and we have the 2 up on Mount Everett Road that are part of the extension to Spencer Drive onto Mount Everett Road. So could that be part of this discussion too? Like if Habitat Humanity gets someone as a donor to move those buildings to those properties, is that something we could consider?
As I indicated, and I think have there in the report, it's not just Beach Street that was discussed on the 17th. There are multiple properties
Yeah.
and there are structures that the city might consider surplus to our needs. We will advise finance of those and council will make a decision of what occurs.
Okay.
Excellent. Councillor Drown, any discussion?
It's, Mr. Chair, it's just that
Oh, sorry.
this issue under surplus properties, again, there's another issue that come up, and I'm just giving you notice on it, Paul, is that Federation of Prince Edward Island Municipalities occupy an office space of 1,300 square feet out at the West Royal Community Centre. They've been told by City Hall they have to be out by July of this year. The Federation of Prince Edward Island Municipalities have been out in that area since 1995, since amalgamation. And I'm sure interim CEO recalls that prior to that, they were here at City Hall. They had an office space up here in the second level. I'm just saying that we should look at a consideration about that decision. Like FPEIM, they're not flush with cash or money. So anything that any of the municipalities can help out, especially the capital, I think would be most welcomed by all members of the FPEIM that include what, 59 municipalities? So I wanna just give notice to
Okay.
get some information on that because we have to be open-minded about who we want occupying our properties. I believe that FPEIM have done a great
Yes.
job for service for all municipalities.
Okay.
And we have our member of the board who sits on the FPEIM, the deputy mayor, so you're familiar with the issue and I think it was discussed at the last board meeting.
Okay.
Just give notice.
Councillor McAleer, any questions?
He can't hear right now,
Okay, that's good.
or he can't speak right now. He can hear, but he just can't,
Okay,
the mic's not working.
so we'll have people
Thank
look into
you,
that.
thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you for that, Paul. G, Victoria Road closure for Confederation Center renovations.
Thank you, Chair. Another operational update, quickly. Planning, Public Works, as always, deal with various developments or redevelopments in the city, sometimes in confined areas. As you're all aware, major renovations to the former library at the Confederation Center have been in the plans and are ongoing as of now. City has worked with the contractor to determine what they need and are able to do on their property, or sometimes obviously deliveries to the site are occurring in the city, and everybody knows vehicles will sit in the public right of way as they offload, and sometimes due to constraints necessary to have temporary or longer term closures of the public right of way for construction activities to occur, both for the construction itself and the safety of the general public. As I say, lots of work has gone into the library project. At the moment, there's all of Richmond Street, Victoria Row as we commonly know it, is closed in for construction activity and safety. They are hoping to get major work with that closure done before, or they will get some major work done before the summer period, where they can open that street back up to its normal summer pedestrian mall, the high density of tourists we get. Come the fall, there will be still construction work going on the Confederation site. There will be renewed discussions with the contractor, and there always have been discussions with the businesses as well on the street. Not able to keep everybody up to date with the changing things that happen moment to moment, but do try to get information out and do get information from all the interested parties. In the fall, reassess what's necessary for street closures or public right-of-way closures, and continue on through the winter and to the end of that project. So just an update that while the street is closed right at the moment, everybody, businesses and contractor have been informed, and council been informed that the street will open again to its normal pedestrian mall activities in the summer, and continue to work with, like I say, the interested parties to move both public and private construction interests forward.
What's the end date? Or is there an end date for that? Does anyone know?
Our director has been also heavily involved in discussing with the parties on this. He
Or was it a
may,
year from when it started, or 2 years, or, that's all I'm asking. Or it's hard to say.
may have an end date, but as we all know, as soon as you set an end date, you need an extra 4 or 5 months or.
Shorter than Province House,
Okay, that's fair.
Sure.
Yeah,
pretty confident.
okay,
She'll put her nickel on that.
excellent, okay.
Can I just ask a question?
Any questions? Yeah, go ahead, your worship.
So, the street is closed, right? But I've been down the sidewalk. That sidewalk is a wide sidewalk, so there's pedestrian traffic going down. Also, if they wanted to open up those patios, they can still open those patios. So it's not like everything is shut down to the public. And I did ask Richard about this, our Director of Community Services. There was concern about the heritage lights not working. I think those heritage lights probably date back to when Victoria Row was opened, back about 2008.
When the pedestrian mall was created, I'm
Yeah,
not sure the
Victoria
year,
Row.
we will have a discussion on that come our budget.
Right, so that'll be in the capital budget. There's also, as we hear from members of council, during council meetings, the third-party review that we commissioned, I believe that has been completed. And I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, that has been sent out?
Correct.
Is that all right, Paul? I just wanted to.
Yes?
Yeah, so Richard's our point person on it. I was just down speaking to Kimberly McIntyre, and she was concerned about, what's in the development agreement. I said, look, those are issues you have to go through, Mr. McEwen. What about if there's if they don't follow the development agreement, are there any procedures or processes involved to, correct the issue? I said, again, those questions have to go to Mr. McEwen, because I believe we designated him as the spokesperson for this project.
Yes.
But it's a $69 million project. Any community, any capital city would, envy that we have an opportunity to have this take place. And it's all part of the provincial historic district that will eventually unfold with the opening of Province House, the renovated Confederation Centre. Hopefully we'll see something on Sydney Street, the development there. So there's a lot of good stuff going on there. And Veterans Affairs, there's
Yeah,
another.
and your worship, that's going to drive even more traffic to that
Yeah.
part of the city for the benefit of the merchants that are there.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, so, we have to keep our eye on the ball here as
Yeah.
far as the long-term positive impacts of these kinds of
And
developments.
there's always disruption, no matter what goes on.
Yeah.
And that's part of life.
Yeah, but the point is, the street, vehicular traffic is prohibited, but pedestrian traffic is open for business. So I
Good to
just
know.
wanna make that clear.
Councillor Drong, you good?
Chair, thank you, your worship, I did
No.
say the street was closed, I
Yeah.
should have
No.
pointed out, and that is good. Also, our emergency services fire department's been heavily involved. While there's closure of the street, they do have access, they know how they would get in there in the event of an emergency and that sort of thing. So yes, sidewalk is open now, and then the pedestrian mall will be back open in the summer.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. Okay. H, lane and parking closure on Kent Street for building demolition and reconstruction.
Thank you, Chair. Again, operational information, another hot topic maybe in our downtown core and very similar to the Confederation Centre. We have a building with zero setback in our downtown core that is about to be demolished or is already starting to be demolished. And then new reconstruction. Again, these projects are going to take a couple of years probably. We end with, as I say, with zero setback, both for public safety and for construction activities. We have some lane closures on Kent Street and Great George Street. A little benefit there is that Kent Street is theoretically a 2-lane, although vehicle width, it's only about 1.5. And also Great George Street has 2 lanes in the southbound direction, so traffic flow hasn't ceased, it's just reduced in the volume capacity we have. The other thing people might notice is that when we've got the barricades finally up on Kent Street, as I say, while it's marked as 2 lanes, quite often you will see bumpers hanging out into the travel lane and you might not be quite happy to go side by side with a car down there. In discussion with the fire services when they were putting the barricades up, we've barricaded a few parking spots on the north side of Kent Street. Have asked fire to take a secondary review now that the Jersey barricades are up and see if those can be reduced or removed. I've forgotten the last 2 mornings to check in with our fire inspector, but I will get at that and see what we can do there. And again, on the operations, we'll keep people updated on what we're able to do with that excess parking that's currently blocked off.
Excellent. Questions on that? Everyone, John's still off?
Guys,
Okay.
he's listening.
Oh, okay, thank you for that, Paul. Then we go to, where are we at here? I, a contract of snow clearing at some municipal buildings and properties.
Thank you, Chair. Again, the comment that has been made at the last couple of council meetings as we have awarded 24-25 snow clearing contracts at our municipal buildings. Have provided some background information there for folks. Traditionally, this is what has occurred. This is at municipal buildings that are maintained by Public Works. It's at some recreation sites that are looked after by the Parks and Rec Department. It's at some facilities and fire hydrants assets out on the street with the Water and Sewer Department. Recreation and water and sewer traditionally haven't had a whole lot of snow clearing equipment and have a long history of contracting out. Public Works does have some snow clearing equipment. But we have dedicated generally to streets and sidewalks as the priority, and have utilized the private sector to simultaneously clear our municipal parking lots. The change might be that we have a new building which last year opened up late in the season when contracts were basically already done. And to get us through that first winter, we utilized Public Works equipment at the new Brackley Point Road Works facility. But that equipment is not housed there. Generally, it has come out of its storage at McAleer, quickly run around the building, and then headed off to work on the city streets. The thought process was we would continue to do that and not take an extra 10 minutes or half an hour or 45 minutes, whatever it might be, to go. It is just up around the corner, but to go up there and clean that, we would put that onto a contracted service, which we have done and council have awarded for this season. If there ever should be a council decision that we should vacate some of the traditional contracted private service contracts and do more ourselves, the questions would be, are we just doing it with our existing equipment and it'll take us a little longer to get places? Or are we gonna get new equipment to cover that off, some, all? And again, timely, if there were to be any changes for next winter and we're about to do our budget, if we need new equipment, it would be appropriate that we get it into the budget. Right now, there is nothing. These contracts are generally low value. $10,000 for Brackley Point Road may not sound like a low value, but for the equipment, for the fuel, for the maintenance, for the insurance, for the staff time, where the contractor might have different wage rates than the city would have to deal with our staff, it's always been seen as very economical services by the management who have been putting those tenders out and recommending their award. Thank you.
And staff could be an issue too. If we don't have enough staff, for example,
Like
as you
I,
stated.
yeah, like I say, you can just get rid of the contractors and go and do that work with our existing resources, but obviously
Something's gonna be delayed somewhere.
something's delayed somewhere, yes.
That's fair. You okay? You're okay, your worship?
Well, you know, you get help in the community,
That's
take it
right.
on.
And as I say,
I
like,
think the manager's recommending that we keep going the course, stay in the course, so.
and it isn't hundreds of thousands of dollars we're talking about, you know, it's, I mean, we're all trying to be half wise here too at the same time. But-
Come by all, we're all working together.
But this has been going on for years, as you stated, Paul, I think.
Yeah.
All the other facilities are probably since amalgamation, yes.
Yeah, okay.
It's the one thing that got raised was Brackley Point Road, which is, we've
Right.
kind of taken our McAleer Drive facility and it's split into two sites now, and yes, we did use our own resources to clear at McAleer Drive and continue to do that because that is the facility they're housed in. Like I say, to do Brackley Point is extra time and a little bit of extra travel and that sort of
But the
thing.
utility has lots of money up there.
Excellent, thank you for that.
Budgets.
Yeah, the timing is also, while we did have Public Works and Utility both as emergency services
Well,
and winter
don't encourage them
snowstorm trying to get out. If now they're in separate sites and they can't both be done at once by
That's
that
right.
same piece of equipment, so we've got new equipment, in this case a contractor.
Well, Public Works is gonna do it, make sure you charge the utility, dollar for dollar.
Okay, thank you for that. That sort of cleared everything up. K, Civic Board for Persons with Disabilities. They met December 17th, and we met again yesterday. I'll make a little comment. The ones that were there at that committee, and myself, Mike White gave them a little tour of the new Simmons. They're very impressed. Glenn Flood is the chair. He was very impressed with how everything is low enough that if you're in with a wheelchair and accessible washrooms, accessible showers, everything like that, and he sort of made a statement, I hope I'm not speaking out of school, but he said to Mike White, if you need more signage from us, we will certainly help you out. There is still the odd little glitch or something like that, but it's a brand new building.
Okay.
So they're very impressed with it. And they're gonna meet again, I believe, on the 18th. We're doing the awards that night,
Okay.
Your Worship.
Council Twill wasn't there for the tour?
Didn't see him.
Okay,
I mean, the coach was empty that day. I didn't see him lying on the couch. But anyway,
Sure he was there.
no, it was good. So they were impressed with that, and that's what the highlight of the meeting yesterday was about.
Thank you.
Any questions on the disability? None at all. Okay, thank you for all that. Let's go right now to the draft budgets. Or does anyone else have any questions on anything on the agenda? John's still off, so we're okay with it. Okay, Paul, I guess it's up to you again. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chair. On budgets, I was going to quiz you before we started. Do we want to start with capital or operational? There's symbiotic relationship, and I'm easy as to whichever we would like to begin with.
For me, capital.
Capital, I think we're working on
We
capital,
wanna
are
deal
we
with
not,
that
sir?
first.
Okay.
Okay. Everyone okay with that? Start with capital?
Oops.
The pages are
Excuse
gone.
me. You did in your package get a quick summary, which I will bring up on the big screen if I can make sure that I'm finding the right.
Throw us the whole fella's maker as big as you
file
can.
here. Well. Oh no, sorry, that's not it, stop that, that's what I'm looking for, here we go.
Page, I think, is it page 13
Um,
on your, in the
now,
package?
IT's here,
13.
is there any way I'm able to
We
make,
have to disconnect the other one, but that would remove the audio, so.
okay,
So page 13 is
Page,
it on your
actually, page
laptop?
12,
Page 12?
12 in your package.
Okay, thank you.
so capital, real quickly, what I have done here, I have shown our 2024-25 budget. Unfortunately, do not have a whole lot of forecasts as to where we'll end up at the end of the year on that. But for some reference, what our budget was last year, and overall, in this that we've put together, we anticipate there'll have to be some cuts at some point, but last year, our Public Works overseen capital was $34.5 million. What we have in there right now for 25-26 is $45 million. That's 130% over the 34, but you will find a couple of items where we are not able to complete the job in this current fiscal year, which ends in a month and a half, two and a half months. And the financial operations that we work under are that we have to re-budget that money. So you're gonna see one farther down where generally we have $2 million a year, every year that we budget. We were only able to get $1 million done this year. You see next year bump up to 3 million, and then years 2, 3, and 4 bump down to 2 million again. So that 45 million is inflated a little bit due to the fact that some of the 34 million isn't gonna be spent and has to be re-budgeted. Difficult to explain that one dollar for dollar, but as we go through the process, we'll try and do that. As we do this capital budget, not only are we asking for monies in 25-26, but we're also making a 5-year projection on projects. I've been doing a little bit of catch up on what these projects are that we had budgeted last year and what's necessary for this year and what our future projects are. Thanks very much to some of the Public Works staff, Riley and Joey in particular, that have helped out trying to get me straight. Hopefully I've done things correct. Sometimes you will see me, if it's a large project, because of that necessary carryover, while I'm projecting significant funds in 25-26, I'm throwing maybe 10% into 26-27 because there's gonna be substantial completions and holdbacks and various things like that. Obviously, in this 5-year projection, years 2, 3, and 4, you're not approving when you approve the capital budget, you're just getting an idea of what future costs are gonna be, and those can always change. So to go very quickly project by project, and trying to do this to replicate what you may have seen and what we have on our website for the general public. We've got a first section of urban beautification. There was a project of Kent Street landscaping. I wasn't quite sure exactly what that project had intended to be. There had been a zero budget for it, but I think there was a little bit of expenditure, so I put in a few $15,000 for 25-26 in there. People will raise their hand or quiz the chair when they
Yes.
want me to stop talking and go back to something. Tree planting, last year 50,000, this year 0. Those funds have been moved over to environment and sustainability.
Yes, okay.
They will carry that 50,000, maybe they'll be able to cut it back, probably not, maybe they'll need to increase it because of inflationary. Equipment replacement in the urban beautification, that's generally the small tools, grass mowers, various things that they have. For some reason, as I went through that, I felt that we would be able to make some reductions and still keep things going, so 95,000 last year, 80,000 this year. Streetscaping kept at a consistent 25,000. Christmas displays, I know that there's always discussions about more Christmas displays. I don't know exactly how it became to be a $5,000 budget next year. But I think to meet the demands that are gonna be asked for, we would need at least $30,000. Everybody loves Christmas displays. They are out there in some harsh conditions. They do have a life, even the ones that we have. Both trying to get them out of the snow and get them away without busting bulbs and twisting wires or frames and that sort of thing. But like I say, often a comment that we need to improve upon, so that's why you're seeing a significant increase there. Event fencing is the crowd control barriers that you might see at various parades. They're just to keep people back from traffic and that sort of thing. Those were originally purchased in conjunction with the Confederation Bridge opening. We all don't know how long ago that was. 96, 97. Over that time, parts have been lost, frames that hold them have been damaged. It's time for a renewal of some of that. You'll see me throwing in 50,000 in year 1, 50,000 year 2, 50,000 year 5, just to, and there's also some times where there's demand for increased quantity of that fencing. Event safety barriers, that is the issue of crowd safety if we were to have a Queen Street market again and try and make sure that somebody unintentionally or hopefully not maliciously tries to drive into the public area. There is no static bollards there, of course, but you can get movable items that would stop a very large vehicle from being able to move forward. Some other folks have done the research on that. Thank you to them.
Can we still
Economic
go ahead with that
development.
since are we still gonna go ahead with that since we're not gonna have
I
the
think,
11
I
subjects?
think that will be, I'm putting it in the budget, so it's there.
Okay.
It is, if you wanted the full meal deal, it's about $1 million. I've broken it down into
Okay.
three 350s, but I think what's gonna happen, Chair, is that when you're having your full council meeting, that's when you're gonna decide whether you're gonna continue with operations down there, and if you need the crowd safety to do that, I think you do need the crowd safety to do that. Are you gonna invest $1 million to do it? I
Okay.
guess
You'd have to have a lead that conversation. It might appear in Public Works budget, but you have to have a lead the conversation.
yes, it's economic development that's helped, as I was about to credit for developing the
Thank you.
value of those barriers. The other new item that you're kind of seeing in there is a major renovation to the cenotaph. I think, can't flip to my other notes real quick, I think it's the 100th anniversary of the cenotaph
It
maybe,
is.
or something like that.
Yeah.
Various staff, economic development, and some others have found some funding through DVA and some of their offshoot organizations. Our costs would be 125, and it's hoped that we could get that, and it's mainly the bronze structure, probably taking it off and giving it another good cleaning. That happened 20 years ago, probably it's the last good cleaning.
2002.
2002,
Yep.
20, coming close to 25 years.
It was.
I know, I just, I don't
George
know how you
McDonald was
remember
in there,
this
wasn't
stuff.
Yeah, I was on council.
Yeah.
Had to get Blair Ross out of there first.
There has been,
Would you stop?
like our personal vehicles, we have been doing some minor annual maintenance annually, but there comes a time when you gotta.
Is that ours or that's feds?
That is ours.
It is ours, okay.
Right.
Cenotaph is,
Yeah,
there is a
the
small,
property it's on,
small
that's
parcel.
ours.
Right, okay.
And there's an unknown grave, unknown,
Soldier?
cylinder below the cenotaph,
Is that right?
yeah, for the unknown soldier.
Okay.
Municipal buildings, might have to say every line, or maybe try not, but again, we've got an area, we had $3.3 million budget last year. Right now, our numbers are trending to 3.4, 30% increase. There had been minor dollars there for West Royalty boiler and gym. I think that was kind of a study. We're at the point where that gym needs some significant work to the acoustic tiles in the walls and that sort of thing, putting in for almost $400,000 next year. The East Royalty, West Royalty generators, I think, is a project that's been completed. Harts Hall upgrades, basically phase 1 of Harts Hall has been completed with the building picked up and moved in a different angle and replaced. Now we need to get inside and redo some electrical wiring and wainscoting and various things. Approximately 500 last year and 500 upcoming.
So that's, just to touch on that, so we had a budget of 400 last year, so we went another 135 over budget. I think you come back for that, now you're looking for another 500 for this year to do the inside?
That is what I'm told, Councillor Draw, yes.
So it'll be over $1 million, okay, thank you.
McAleer upgrades, there, obviously, departments moved out of there and they're looking to repurpose some of that facility, putting in 375 for the current year. And then there's always gonna be needs to a large building like that, carried forward into future years at a smaller amount. The transit facility, right now, have in there a 91,000, not quite sure, I don't think much of that was
What's
spent
that
this
for?
year.
Transit.
Managed road transit, this is both, my understanding, both upgrades to an existing structure and would be an addition of new structure should we have electric buses that both need charging stations and storage and maintenance.
But is that not put on hold?
No, the resolution that we passed in December, Mr. McEwen asked us to press the pause button because we had to look into the financing. Same as the buses that we passed a resolution in November, we put them on hold too.
So for right now, I've carried 250,000 into next year, but pushed the bulk of costs into 26, 27 as some of these decisions are made on when we get buses. And when we are doing next year's budget, you may well push 26, 27 into 27, 28, or whatever. I didn't move it too far down the road. I just, probably not gonna happen this year, so just move it till next year as a bit of a placeholder. We have account for general large maintenance at all of our facilities. Have to go back and refresh myself, and I'll do that as to why I only put 200,000 in the first year and then significant funds in years 3 through 4. I will advise of that later. The corporate energy upgrades is a project mainly done, still have some things going on next year and then smaller items as we begin to reap the rewards of some of those energy efficiencies that we're putting into our buildings. Furnitures and fixtures is for all of our various buildings, carrying some of that money forward again, and some of that is a little bit, planning is almost bursting at the seams right now with staff there. Similarly, our police department, and then we've had our new Brackley Point Road, so a little bit of a hump in the coming years for that, and then hopefully things will flatten out into years 2 through 5. The City Hall security, I haven't educated myself too much on that, but it is an item that's been discussed and we would be trying to move forward with, creating a more automatic access for city staff and curtailing general public access, whether we know about it or don't know about it, throughout the building. Fire station structural, again, significant building, 100,000 was put in there for some specific work last year, carrying a little bit of that forward to finish it off, and some funds into the future. Sherwood Hall planning, have some work was done, I'm not sure, there was some funding there for it in 24, 25, looking at more significant funds to create a plan of what we would do in that Sherwood Hall area and somewhat the Cody Banks Arena, excuse me. And then you see that implementation of that plan is in this budget looked at more ramping up in 26, 27 and significantly 27, 28, 28, 29 and hopefully wrapping up in 29, 30. It's budgetary, there's lots of things here. Sometimes, as you're well aware, we want to do things, but trying to find consultants or trying to find staff time, difficult. Like I say, that's a financial plan right at the moment and open to any comments.
Perfect. Could I have a comment there?
You go right ahead, sir. I
Thank
know-
you, I appreciate it, Paul. You've been around a long time, and I know back in 2017, 2018, we put 300,000 in for planning at that time. We went through, I think I went through 3 CAOs to get directions. And each time we were making big plans. Every year we came back to one of the last times is we couldn't find the 300 or it was spent. This time it was 15,000 last year for planning, and I think we took that out of the budget, but we were gracious enough to get it back for a ramp, disability ramp for the side. So now I see 100,000 in here. The whole idea is I myself had asked the council to please buy that house that was affected by the oil spill that we had. I understand you put the money in for planning, but it just seems that it's continuously delayed. Now we're looking at a major, that's 2 or 3 years down the road. Whereas the Hertz Hall, and I'm not being, disrespectful for that area because that building did need it. I've been waiting 8 years trying to move this forward. I've always hit a stumbling block. This to give you a background, this hall has been moved up here from the war that was up at the airport. In the 60s, it was moved there. There was oil spilt. We've had people in doing evaluations. They say it's fine, but it's musty. It's old. We have children in there, the daycares are in there. We can come up with $1 million and we moved Hertz Hall because of the province plowing snow there. So that was $1 million you're looking here. But now we're delayed in this, and I think the people of Sherwood deserve some movement on this. We don't have a warming center. We put that in the budget 4 or 5 years ago to get a generator. That was bumped. We were going to get it from the police station here when they did their upgrades. Then I find out that was lost. We never did get that. I'm frustrated, and I understand you're kind enough to jump into this once again to try to do a great job, and your forecasts are right. But I am extremely frustrated on this. The people of Sherwood have been asking for a warming center in case something happened. A new community center. You did have some vision there about the Cody Banks, because it'll eventually have to be replaced. But I think, when I sit here and I don't see a whole lot of movement, I guess you have 100,000. It will have to go to council to debate it again, but I ask for your compassion to try to move something for that area. And Mayor Brown, you know as well.
I'm gonna follow right up when you finish. I do have something to say about it.
Okay, so I want to throw that out, I'm
Yeah.
biting at the bit here, and I appreciate you moving it forward. But it has to happen quicker than later, as I feel, but thank you.
And Councillor Duran, as he said, he was part of the group or helped Mrs. Doucette and family to get that property purchased by the city. But Councillor Duran, when we look at Cody Banks and we look at the Sherwood Hall, like, do we do one in isolation of the other? Or do we make a decision to move forward on what we're gonna do? What is the future for Cody Banks? Really, what it is? Like, it's, to see the contrast now between the new Simmons Aqua Arena facility and Cody Banks,
Yes.
it's night and day. Like, and what are we gonna do? And if we're not gonna do anything with Cody Banks, then let's move forward on building a community center in Sherwood.
Yep.
And could I just get the actual, maybe Paul, you might not be in the position to. Of that 15,000 we budgeted last year, what was the actual? What did we spend of it?
What is our expenditure? As I said, your worship, I'm sorry.
I don't
but
think there was
I don't have
anything.
a whole lot of information on our forecast where we'll be at end of year. But you're correct, I'm not sure that, I don't think any, I'm assuming it was for planning, or maybe it was for a ramp, I don't know. But I'm not sure.
Well, let's assume.
Operationally, like I say, I hear Councillor Duran's frustrations, I know them.
We went
Would like to move forward.
to Boy Scouts together there when we were 6 or 7 years old,
We were
Paul.
around the bill, I don't think I was a Boy Scouts, but anyway.
It's Cubs.
I know,
It's
yeah.
Cubs. Used to fight
It-
against
it is-
Charlottetown.
I can't answer, having been stepped aside from some of this,
Sure.
Councillor Duran, since 2017.
Yeah.
I can't say what's been done, but I don't think we do have that plan, and in terms of, I know you want to get shovels in the ground, but the planning process would have to come first, especially if there's public consultations. Single floor barrier free, 2 floors elevator, 6 square feet, 300 square feet. Incorporate the services from Cody Banks, don't, which orientation, where is it? We wouldn't be able to get shovels in the ground by the end of this year with what we have and where we are right now.
Paul, that all said, I'm assuming nothing was spent of that 15,000.
You didn't notice it if it was.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
wouldn't.
didn't even see a change in a nail. Shingle on the door.
And
But
as
all
I
I wanna say, Paul, is that, you know what? Let's move that Mrs. Doucette building. Let's get that out of there. That gives us an extra, is it a third of an acre? Must be a third of an acre. If you go grade on slab,
Deep.
Hmm?
It goes deep.
yeah, it's grade on slab.
Yeah.
You can go with a grade and slab, so that takes care of the issue of any contamination from hydrocarbons. And let's start planning this to make it happen, because Councillor Duran's right. I've been here since 2019 and it's 15,000 never moves. I'm sure if I go back to 2019, it's 15,000. All I'm just saying is, let's do something, but the first thing we have to do, Sue, is that building has to be moved.
Agreed.
And get that out of there and we can speak to Pam, Pam Skirman Montgomery from Habitat for Humanity and say, look, we'll move it. You guys put the slab down, we'll put it on there, 'cause
And that's what would be, your worship, through you, Mr. Chair, the Sherwood Hall planning, we have to have, a sequential order of how things happen there. First thing, to your point, your worship, is
Move
get
the-
the building out of there.
Yes.
The second thing is to come up with a concept plan for the larger consolidated parcel of where the rec hall sits and the adjacent property. I'm assuming, Paul, we would have to do some sort of lot consolidation
Yeah.
there. And then find out from the public whether they want a new community center on that front piece, or whether we're doing something with the Cody Banks and connecting to that somehow at the end of the day, because the Cody Banks Arena is past its life expectancy as well as the Sherwood Rec Hall. So do the people in the community want us to just come forward with another Simmons building on that plot of ours? Or
Not
do
enough
they,
room.
with more parking out front where the buildings are now? Or like, what is it that the people wanna see in that neighborhood?
That's where
And
your
if they-
public meeting's gonna be.
And if they want a community center in front of the existing Cody Bank as a separate entity to the arena, then that's our path forward. We don't have to wait to come up with the master plan for Cody Banks replacement, we proceed with the community center sooner rather than later.
Well, if you go ahead with the community center on that consolidated piece of property, there would not be a community room in the new rink, like we did for Simmons. You wouldn't need it.
No, you wouldn't.
No, that's my
You don't
point,
need-
if we're running separate courses
Yeah.
on the two items, then there's no reason why we can't finally get Councillor Duran's project on the books to start moving down the road of a new community center.
Well, first things first again, get the building moved.
Yep.
Do the land consolidation.
Yep.
And then have the public meeting. Well, the public meeting, you don't need a land, for lot consolidation doesn't require a public hearing or public meeting. That's been taken out of the planning, or zoning development bylaw. So you can consolidate the properties and then propose a idea, concept plan for a new community center
We should
on
also,
Maple Avenue.
yeah, and in this year's budget, we could probably do a design
Yeah,
with this year's budget. And then be ready for a capital construction project potentially as early as the following fiscal. And that would hopefully give people some hope that there's something on the move there.
well, we did have this discussion, Councillor Drawn, on Cody Banks. When we were looking at a twin facility for Simmons and you said, remember what you said? Cody Banks has another 10 years.
Oh, at least.
10 years life, so if,
Don't think for one second that I ever said, don't touch Cody Banks, right? Cause at that time, we had numbers that the Simmons was only past its date and Cody Banks was 6 to 7 years, at that time. I would never have said it has
10 years.
10 years. I wasn't holding on for 10 years. I'd rather it replace sooner than later.
Right.
So.
but not
you-
a twin facility at
No,
Simmons.
because at that time, you were saying, let's twin it and take that away, the Cody Banks. There was ideas that went in West Royalty and that we decommissioned Cody Banks. So at one meeting somewhere down the road in the last 10 years, I said, don't take Cody Banks because we weren't decommissioning it and putting a twin somewhere else.
Right.
Because the community appreciates that rink. We've grown up into it for 50 years. Paul and I skated on it.
And went to Cubs in Sherwood Hall.
Exactly. So there'd be no question that a community center could go in the new rink if that was something that we could do with the plan here. There's,
That new rink's down the road.
well, yeah, but so what do? Do we
No,
get
the
a,
community center.
do we get a concrete plan at one or the other? There's gotta be a plan. I've been promised a plan.
Yeah.
We did do a set of plans. There is a set of plans here at City Hall somewhere
For a new community center.
for a new community center. I've seen the plans.
Oh,
When were those done?
Mr. Kelly had them done.
Oh,
oh,
And it was the election after that I asked to see them. Someone wanted to see them. They wanted proof of them. So there was plans done of that community
have
center.
you ever seen those, Paul?
There
Why
was
don't we try and search some,
there was gonna be a two-story at that time. Sherwood, Parkdale Lions Hall came in and met, and they were gonna run it for us. We had the locksmith, he was president of the Sherwood Lions Club. He came in with a couple other members. They were gonna run it as a business, take the community center over, then the community could use it. We had these plans, and then all of a sudden, for some reason, it all stopped and all went away. Now, that reason would be,
so in this public meeting right here,
yep,
is it your preference to go with the community facility first? Or do you wanna wait until a new rink is built, which could be
which could be
sometime?
5-6 years,
or 10.
or
So
10,
what's-
that's right.
Yeah, well, community center, I'd like, because a lot of people, I still get the same lady calling me, that you've promised, and what happens if the snowstorm, soon as the cold hits? We don't have it in place, we don't have a warming center, we don't have the ability, and I know through fire, emergency services, we'd have to have people in place to keep it going. But it's like, well, we're terrified, we need a community center. We have the daycares, we have all that stuff, the judo, every night is practically full there.
Bill,
It's full, and we've outgrown it, and then we have lovely places in East Royalty and West Royalty. I think now it's a time to get something for our area, not being greedy, because I've certainly sat by and watched other communities get them. And it's just a part of the city of Charlottetown that, you know, we haven't moved forward in our upgrading of our buildings.
Fully agree. Okay,
Thank you.
let's find the plans.
We'll see if we can locate those. Winter snow dump, there was no budget last year, but I know this fall we were doing a little bit of capital work out there to try and get it ready. It's the only site we have. We always hope that it's got capacity for what Mother Nature throws at us, so put in some funding for the upcoming year and carrying forward, maybe some major upgrades in a couple of years possibly. The police station, like I indicated earlier, how to use building, lots of work going on out there, carrying some funding forward so we can continue to do upgrades and repairs. The Brackley Point Road building, being finished off, carrying a little bit of money into next year to do the final touch-ups, and then a minor amount into the future, as always need work on it. The Hillsborough Park elevator upgrades, I haven't gotten my head wrapped around that project too much, but I think they are waiting on the elevator itself. Unfortunately, there's a delivery problem with some of the infrastructure, but that project's underway and hopefully will be wrapped up. We may see that doesn't get wrapped up before March 31st, and the budget of 760 for this year actually ends up only being a couple of $100,000 expenditure, and the 25,000 budget for next year to finish it off. The money gets pushed forward into that and it goes up. Makes our budgets look significantly different, but in terms of what the city is going to the bank and borrowing, it's not. So that's the major thing. City Hall upgrades, there was 300,000. Again, we're trying to get some work on the roof done. I'm trying to figure out how we're getting along there. But again, a building, finish that off or do some work, some significant changes to it possibly. The brownfield redevelopment, might be a topic, there may not necessarily be a brownfield, and I can't remember, can't see down the screen whether we've got land transactions, maybe we do. The brownfield redevelopment, I think it was a bit of a placeholder for some funding next year, probably not gonna be spent. Therefore, while it looks like we're going from 750 to 1.5 million, it's really just 750, 2 years all being spent in 1 year.
What is that? Can someone
next
explain that part, Joey?
It's contaminated land.
Oh, right, okay, yes.
Why do they use brown?
No, that's what I'm asking. Go ahead.
Black field.
Boys and Girls Club, we were doing some work there recently, and another facility that we need to put some investment into. And our new planning building, so-called new planning building on Kent Street, no budget for it in the past. We have been doing some work, and these are, like I say, there's no forecast there. Some of these zero budgets I know we're spending money on as I was doing this budget, so I'm putting some funding in there for the future.
Mr. Chair, could I just ask a couple?
Yes, go ahead, sir.
So, Paul, the brownfield redevelopment, maybe Richard knows, I think that's connected to the Charlottetown event grounds. We were looking at buying the property, and then province told CADC, no, just sell them what they need to push that road through from Water Street Parkway to Grafton Street, that's all we got.
It could be related to that.
Yeah, so do we have to put the 1.5 million? 26, 27?
I have been
25, 26, I should say.
in trying to wrap my head around this and doing a first draft,
Yeah.
your worship. I've been
So far, so
generous. You know, you'll find some numbers that I have reduced.
Yeah.
But I've been cautious in terms of not throwing money in there and then finding out it's something that's underway and there's a bill on my desk that has to be paid.
Right.
So as you get through, I will continue to refine my work with some of these questions. And as it gets to finance and committee of the whole, we may see slightly different numbers at that point in time. And I
Right.
may have more information that will allow us to say, hey, 1.5 isn't really necessary, we could cut that back to something else.
Okay, and if I could go up to Mount Everett Road, transit facility, so it's 91.5, did we spend 91.5 on it? Again, you don't have the
I don't
forecast.
have forecasts.
And who budgeted the 250? Was that the
that's,
previous
no,
chief
that-
engineer? Or was that you?
No, this is all me. I haven't had a chance to discuss with the previous manager what my numbers were.
So it sounds like we're staying there and the pause for the new transit facility is just gone.
So that piece is in environment and sustainability.
I know that.
The new building, so this is for the existing building, and I believe there's some stormwater work that needs to be completed and possibly some building work
Okay.
that needs to be completed.
Okay. Okay.
And where I was going there was, yes, there's an existing structure that we've taken over and it needs some work, 250,000. In addition to that, and a lot of new electrification and whatever is significant, but that's next year, that's 26, 27, at least. Traffic and pedestrian, smart intersections may be an account code that's been there in the past that we're not really carrying forward. Riley can comment if I say something wrong here. Pedestrian crossings, significant, or $100,000, and then some incremental over the course of the 5 years. New traffic signals, I think is some of this carried forward, Riley? The reason that we went from 100,000 to 1.3 million? Or is it just that we've created our plan and now we need to implement it?
The increase there is just that we're hoping to carry out some new projects that weren't on the books in past years, so,
Okay.
yeah.
Just an uptick in the work that we would do, and Riley has worked on a 5-year plan. And we do have, it's difficult for me to show here, flip between documents and see enough on the screen, but Riley, we have developed a plan of where that 1.35 would be spent at 4 intersections. They all happen to kind of be a Grafton Street corridor. Signage upgrades, just not full forecast, but I'm wondering if we might be able to get away with a little bit of a reduction there. Again, we've got other larger numbers in this area if we have to move some money back and forth a little bit.
Paul, if you don't
Yes.
mind? Remember years ago, we changed the signage, Joey, we only had the small ones and then went larger? Did we ever fulfill that we went larger street signs, street names? Sorry, Paul,
I'm not 100% on it, but I believe we have moved in that direction.
but they're all not changed yet, right?
No,
No, okay. No, I just
no,
wondered.
we've been getting orders and
Oh, okay. Because we went to the larger one, correct?
In terms of the 500
Right.
lot area, when we went with the black signs,
Yes.
is that what you mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there was initial concern with the font size. And yes, I think all of that font was changed. We were working with that was back
Yeah,
prior
that was
to
a while ago.
2017.
DCI.
We're working with, DCI or CDA, CADC. We were working with somebody else. I thought that as necessary, the fonts that needed to be increased had been completed.
I believe you're right there.
If anybody saw something that they thought looked out of place, they could let us know and
Okay.
we would.
No, I just noticed when you're driving, you still see the smaller ones and you see the larger ones, right?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Traffic calming, we had a $20,000 item there. We all know what the demands are for traffic calming. Some of that is speed humps, push that up to 50,000. And then as you see us carrying through the future years, put in a small just estimate for inflationary costs. School zone safety, obviously very important, carrying again $50,000. And the adaptive signs, I'm sorry, my spelling. Riley may be able to speak to that, but that's something we've kind of got a good kick at and we still need to maintain, but there was some money, but you see us being able to cut back there a little bit. Street lighting, the existing Fitzroy, Rochford, Terry Fox project. Not sure if I was totally clear what that was. What I have, maybe, I'm not sure. What I have done is there's always street lighting that we need to deal with, so not sure why there was a zero budget last year, but have put in 250 and 200,000 over the next 5 years for that. And then a dedicated line, as his worship indicated, there's been a long-standing issue with the Victoria Row lanterns. It's not a quick and easy fix, it's underground wires that are not in conduit that need to be replaced, and boring and picking up the unit pavers and putting them down. Put that in there, and Councillor Yankov has also been mentioning it. Put that in there as a dedicated item. There has been a consultant or contractor estimate that helps us with that $250,000 value. Put it in there as a dedicated line and leave it to the councillors to fight for in the budgetary process.
So under,
Oh, sorry.
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna ask a question about the Fitzroy Rochford Terry Fox section. I'm assuming that must be actually street lighting.
It is.
But since the path was done, I've had a lot of people asking me about the lighting of the path. That it would have been nice to have put some lights along that pathway that's there.
It's not our land.
No, I realize that, but we did the path, did
Right.
we not?
Right.
And I don't know how difficult it would be to go back and add lights. Is that something that we can consider?
Well, the Fitzroy, Richard, I think you're around the table, Fitzroy Rochford's Terry Fox. That was to finish off the heritage lighting from Rochford
Right,
to Terry Fox.
right.
And it didn't go both sides, it's
Right.
went one side and then skipped to the other side. I don't know what the 25, 26, 26, 27, which is what, 250, 200, 200. I don't know what that is, maybe
There must be some sort of 5-year plan
you
for
must
the
have
lights.
taken
that
it, running
you're
them right
talking about.
along Terry Fox up to Victoria Park Boulevard.
The 5-year budget that I've put in on the project description, which you may see at some point, unfortunately I can't display it right here. I've had, like I say, trying to figure things out. I've indicated that the Terry Fox, Rochford, or Fitzroy Terry Fox may be completed. But we do need to try and find LED bulbs for a lot of our existing lanterns.
Right.
And there's always damage and repair to the aluminum poles that we would have out University Avenue by UPEI and that sort of thing. So that 5-year plan of 250 in first year and 200 in future years is for those sorts of things. The
But Paul, would that be
slush
enough?
fund's not the word I wanna use,
No.
but it's not
Dedicated
a
fund,
dedicated
dedicated fund.
project, but it's money that we have so that when something arises, we can action.
But wouldn't that be operational?
Not if we're buying a bulb or replacing a pole that we could turn around and put in the yard sale and sell, that can be a capital item.
Thank you.
The electricity that we need to power it,
He's an operational.
operational.
Okay. Put the bulb in, operational.
So that's street lighting. Parkades, the Pownell structural is one where I don't think a whole lot happened this year, so $1 million and then you're seeing a 1.5 million request next year. I think a lot of that will be carryover. Need to find out where we stand on that. The Fitzroy Parkade facade, and the next 4 items, they had 0 budget in this past year. They may be old projects, but we know there's things coming in the future. You'll see me putting in some significant funds for the Queen Street Parkade upgrades, both needed to our own existing structure and maybe that we're partnering with other people to do expansions. So significant money there.
And 1.5 for Pownell?
1.5 for Pownell, but a lot of that is the carryover of what had been 1 million budgeted this year, I think. And I'm not sure exactly what the report was or what the work was and why it got tendered or why it didn't get done. Have to figure that out, but have the funding there.
Oh, it's right here, Pownell Parkade Restoration. He's got $1 million and then he's got, for 25, 26, he put 3 million.
Okay.
But we didn't spend the first million, did we?
No,
Well, that can carry over. That's,
And I
that's up to 2.
wasn't looking at those
Yeah, that's-
projects, I was quickly just looking at what the
That's in
finance
it.
department had given me.
that's in his budget presentation. Yeah. Hillsborough Park Community Center upgrades.
New parking, is in there, that is, I have heard folks talking about, some possible changes on Grafton Street where we would address, the main bus depot that's there and 4 or 5 times a day where buses are parked on both sides of the streets and the vehicular traffic doesn't know whether they should go between them or not, so, some money that may address those various things. And parking meter replacement, we have our parking meters out there, I don't know whether we're going to expand our inventory, but there's always some damage and, repairs that need to be undertaken, so having some funding in place for that. Property acquisitions, the land purchase as required, there had been 1.1 million. Don't know that too much of that was spent, budgeting 1.2 million. Sometime maybe we have a discussion with our finance department whether we can create reserved accounts whereby we don't put this budget in every year and maybe not spend it, but we could put in a smaller amount, put that into a reserve, it looks like it was spent, and then when a significant purchase comes up, we can go to our reserve and say, hey, we've squirreled away the money, let's go do it. But we all know that time to time there comes a question of, excuse me, a parcel comes for sale, we'd really like to buy it, and then you're left as a council trying to figure out how you're gonna fund it because the budgets are set. And you don't want to increase them, but nobody's willing to give up any of the funding they've already received. So this is an opportunity to have it there. If our budgets come in surplus, we're all good with that, I'm sure. If a project comes up, we have the money.
So,
And-
Paul, on that 1.1, I believe, Councillor Duran, you were on finance when that was dedicated for the purchase of Charlottetown Event Grounds to buy the whole property.
Okay,
And
yeah.
it dropped. So do we know what we're paying for the strip of land that's going from Grafton Street east to Water Street Parkway, Richard or Paul or Riley, do we know? Is there a bill in yet from CADC?
Still working on it,
But it won't be 1.1 million.
still working on it.
Yeah, Michael's carrying that file for us right now, so we should know that
The
soon.
1.1 was for the whole property.
Yes.
Okay, we're still working on
Michael's
it.
got that file, does he not? Yeah,
Who does? Mike
Michael
does.
does, yeah.
Thanks, sir.
The Confederation Center, property acquisition, my understanding is we may have some grant or, payment situation set up with them that we're gonna do over multiple
But
years.
we're working out a purchase of Boulder Park, because that's what we were asked to look at. And Confederation Center, I think, had crossed that duty to consult, checked off that box. And now the next box is to work out how far the property goes into the amphitheater, because there's property that goes right into the amphitheater.
I've carried the line there and there can be more detailed discussions when committee of the whole is together to make sure that we've got funds as we need it. Street
So that's
rehab.
$1 million for 5 years?
No, it's million, million,
Oh,
and we've
for
already
5 years?
We've already put 200,000 in operational. And remember, I think Councillor Drawn, you were here when, on December 13th, he made his presentation. And we talked about some of the line items in their operational budget that comes from the city that they're up for negotiation. They will be negotiable.
Okay, so this is
So
all
there's land-
negotiable, yeah.
There is land to be,
So that Bulger Park that you're talking about,
Boulder Park is, which lies in
so
front
we're
of,
looking at $4 million purchasing that?
that's a 3.3, there is I think McQuaid, is it Herman McQuaid and Associates did a land assessment on it.
That's what it came back at?
I can't say because it was in a closed session.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay,
Remember?
yeah, they're true,
I don't know what it was.
$1 million,
Richard once said, I think it's still open, right, Richard?
no comments,
Council's still working through that matter.
okay.
Capital budget street rehab, this is an area where we've got some dedicated projects named, and then we have, another line, I think, in the bottom, which is future projects, where we need to beef that up and get project names in there if it's gonna be within the next 5 years. And then we have also got one line I'll point out, which is our annual resurfacing project. Eastern Gateway, I think we're pretty well done. There may be some funds that we need to push out of that 3.2 into next year to make holdback payments or residual work, that sort of thing. The University Avenue, that is the streetscaping plan that was done basically from Allen Street, or being worked on basically from Allen Street to Belvedere Avenue. Great project, but we have a feeling that it probably doesn't move forward very far in the next year, so you're gonna just see minor dollars. And then I pushed major funds into year 2 of our 5-year, and they can continue to be pushed. Seaview Boulevard, big numbers last year, or that hopefully is done. Spencer Drive Extension is another project where we're a little unsure what funding we're gonna get and what work we're gonna be able to do. That is pushing Spencer Drive through to the Mount Edward Road, working with area developers on what services they might need within the new road, so we don't build it and then have to tear it up and rebuild it. And what timing some of those developers need. Right now, kind of split it down the middle, you know, we know it's gonna be a $8 million area project, kind of split it, that will look to carry 4 million next year and some the year after, but especially if we're not catering to developers, we can be flexible on that value and move it to the future if we need to.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, sir.
Thank you. It's just, on that case, are we doing it all on our own? Like, if that development is gonna, you know, there's big plans there, so do they not develop any of it, or is this just all in the city?
I think we are working with the developers to, like I say, we've got some desires, they have some desires, come together, how can timing and financially, can we work together? There's things like, you know, do they need water and sewer service off that road, and therefore do we have to put those pipes underneath? They may come and say, oh, we're gonna get our water and service from the other side, and we don't need it here, we're stuck left building the road, and some of the costs of the water and sewer are just that, but some of them would go into the road too, but it is very much a project in progress and trying to figure out what everybody needs and wants. But certainly, we're not thinking that we're going in here and doing it all at whatever the developers tell us they'd like to see. No, we are trying to, recognizing that, I always say, Farmer Brown come in, he'd build the roads and the water and sewer and turn it all over to the city. This time the city's involved a little bit, because we're desiring this road, but still looking to keep developers on the hook for things that normally they would be paying for.
Thank you.
Eastern Gateway number 2, similar phase 2, similar to phase 1, hopefully we've got that generally completed. The annual resurfacing project, that is our first inspection list, trying to get about enough of our streets done that it would be 4%, so that we'd be back in 25 years. Those are ending up being $4.5 million projects. A lot of that funding has been coming through the Canada Community Building Fund. Engineering needed on various projects that sort of covers the span up and down. Pond Street, basically we're done and out of that project. The Park Street Beach Connector, hopefully we're done on that. St. Peter's Road, hopefully we're done on that. Water Street is one of our focal projects for next year. That's water between Rochford or Haviland, I guess, and Connell Street. Is it Riley? Just one block?
It's 2 blocks, Haviland to Queen.
Haviland to Queen, thank you very much. Some underground issues there, basically need a full street reconstruction. Have had consultants working on that, feel we could get tenders out, feel we could get work done in the current year, so you'll see a significant value there. And then just minor, carrying forward to finish up the year after. Exhibition Drive is another area where we've got some underground issues and need to spend some big dollars.
Exhibition Drive, Paul, is just gonna be, is the whole street gonna be closed during that time, or are we gonna be allowing traffic?
We obviously would try to allow as much traffic flow as possible, but it is a big dig project that's gonna interfere with things. We do recognize that in August, there's Old Home Week going on in the area and would try to schedule things before or after as much as possible and.
Plus, there's a lot of businesses on that street.
And businesses
An awful
have
lot of
been
business.
consulted as well, so.
Yeah.
Like any project on any street, we try to keep it open, but there's times when you gotta dig down and you gotta have slope on your project so that people can get in the hole and things like that, so.
Okay,
But it is a project where, right now, we've got 2.9 million in there. Probably it's something that some of those funds could be pushed forward to the next year. It's probably gonna be a multi-year project, start one year, big work next, finish off the year after. North River Road, Capitol Drive intersection, another area that has been identified that could have some significant work onto it that we can probably get done in the upcoming fiscal, for the most part. One thing that's come up just recently, so I threw a line in for it, although I haven't put in any budget, is request that the power be buried on Dorchester and King so that area development could occur. Did have a quick chat with someone who said maybe the power doesn't need to be buried, maybe it just comes from the two directions and there's nothing in the middle, but basically new development is saying we should fix the street up so that they can do their project. Whether we do, how can we do? And the issue is if it is Maritime Electric or telecoms companies, they're probably not gonna get in their capital works a project for this coming year. They need time to maneuver staff and maneuver resources and maneuver finances, even though the city ends up paying for it.
And that's both Maritime Electric and Bella Line and
I'm not sure what telecoms are on the street, but there's no use putting the electrical power underground and leaving poles overhead for telecoms. The future projects line you see there, I talked about our major focus for this year. Well, I talked, I guess, about Pond and Beach and St. Peter's are done and over. And the focus for the coming year is water and exhibition in North River. What you see in those future projects of 17, 18, 19 million dollars is water and exhibition in North River are over, and what are the next streets we're moving to. As I said, we need to get a little better at getting those things in there so we can say, you know what, in 5 years, we hope to be on Acme Street and doing $2 million worth of work.
that's just public works cost, because
Yes.
it isn't sewer and water,
No.
isn't it?
We work with sewer and water to coordinate services, but they should carry their own
That's what I
costs.
was thinking.
Yeah.
Separate corporation.
Yeah, because Seaview is 1.7
Correct.
or whatever it was, and then,
1.2 for water and
and then
wastewater.
sewer and water was in there,
1.2
yeah,
million.
yeah.
So, first time seeing this document, like I say, there's some continued work we need to do to build it out and make it even more useful.
So Paul, just to get back to what the chair said about Seaview Boulevard, you had 1.8 million, right? So we don't know the forecast yet, we don't know the real numbers yet because we don't have them, correct?
Need to spend some time, some invoices are in, I just haven't had the time to,
And for water and wastewater, it budgeted for last year was 1.2, so it's a $3 million project, but I think it went over that because of change orders.
and I know there's.
Project for one
yeah.
street.
And I know there's some work that's gonna have to be
Which had to
done
be done.
next year, so you'll probably see me adding a little bit into the 25, 26, but it's hopefully some or all of it will be funds that we didn't spend this year.
Right. So if I can just ask with Eastern Gateway Phase 1, Phase 2. So last year, the chief engineer put in the costs and he had a 12,550,000. So if you add up the two numbers he's got there, it's a little over that. So did you say that there's a holdback on some of these tenders?
There will be holdback and maintenance, and some of them are we got into the fall and they just couldn't finish seeding or sodding or various things that'll need to be carried over, so in a meeting today, some of those projects may have gone, or the combined Eastern Gateway 1 and 2 may have gone a little bit over the city's funds, but there may also be some of that we need to rebudget it next year. Obviously, let's just say that's a 12.5 million budget, let's say it come in at 13 million,
Right.
but we only spent 12, then I need to move 1.5 million forward and put in an extra 500,000 for the overage into the next capital budget.
Okay, so I brought up many times, if we went by their timeline for Birch Hill construction, for phase 1, they were to be seeding and landscaping by June 30th last year. That didn't happen. So I kept asking, what are the penalties in the contract? I don't think there were any penalties, so do we have any way of looking at this issue? Because a lot of the businesses that were down there did suffer loss of revenue. And that's where I was coming back to, and I think our chief engineer told us that we could probably trap it under liquidated damages. Liquidated damages?
Yeah, I don't
know how that works.
Yeah, liquidated damages are, if you tell me or I tell you that I'm gonna do something for the next 4 weeks, so you rent a car to support that, and it takes me 6 weeks,
Yeah.
you have to rent the car for another 2 weeks,
That's liquidated damage.
you do that. That is between the contractor and the project owner.
Okay, that's us.
It's not to a third
Business.
party,
Oh,
yes.
Okay.
And like the city wasn't going to, or has not compensated businesses for the anticipated projects that are gonna take a month and do take a month or only take 3 weeks. We also don't compensate for the projects we think that are gonna take a month and take 6 weeks. Try to, the construction guys and gals are out there, and maybe if it's a service industry, maybe they're buying coffee or eating at them when they're working, but may not make up, and 1 and 2, one project I think did make its timeline, one was outside its timeline.
It was.
We're still rolling through the extras that the contractor's asking for
Oh.
and saying yes, no, and sometimes they're asking for an extra, we had to rent the sign for an extra 3 weeks, and we're saying, yeah, but you were 6 weeks over timeline, so that's not our problem.
Okay.
So there'll be maybe not direct cash compensation, but cost compensation and what we pay out. We're still working on
Are
those
you negotiating
matters.
that, or is Richard negotiating that?
We've got a consultant and our management staff are running the numbers and working with the contractor and trying to come to mutual agreement so that we don't spend more than we have to on outside conciliators or anything like that, and can get her done.
Just to clarify one last point, Spencer Drive Extension, 25-26, you get $4 million, I know it was asked, I think by Councilor Drumm. But there's also a water and wastewater cost there too, because you do have to put in water lines, wastewater lines,
This is all,
stormwater management and so forth.
this is all budgetary,
Yeah.
still trying to nail down, like I say, water and sewer. Do developers want water and sewer? Does the, point at Richard, not him anymore, does the utility want to loop their service through there anyway, even if nobody's gonna tap into it? Or do we not need water and sewer on that street because the system is fine as is and nobody's gonna tap into it, so let's not build it? Still, things we're trying to nail down. This is all budgetary.
Thank you.
Okay,
Sidewalks and trails, Union Materials, that's our crews that go out and do small repairs all over the place. It's about a $450,000 item every year. They have some minor equipment with them. We do some engineering on larger projects. Few projects noted there.
Okay.
go ahead,
Yes,
sir.
guys.
Yes.
Sorry to delay this, Paul, but I've been asking for this as well. Under an engineering, we've had a street in my area, Elizabeth Drive. It was done in 2017-18 as well. The engineering was out there to connect the the sidewalks. It's a small, short street and they have to walk on the road. It goes up McKay Drive and Parkview Drive with sidewalks. And then there's no sidewalk on Elizabeth Street. And you've got the same email as I have from the Browns?
And Ivan,
Yep, and you know, we've asked for that, the engineering work was done for that, but it stopped on that. So I know the 5-year sidewalk plan could be adjusted, but it wasn't in that. But they've been waiting 15 years for that.
Sidewalk, 5-year sidewalk plan that went to Public Works Committee in the fall of 2023 had Elizabeth Street on it in 2025.
this year.
So
This year.
still going ahead then?
Could you
It's
just
on the
Some
list.
planning and some budgetary, you haven't passed the capital budget, you know, thing, I won't guarantee it, but it has been thought about.
Okay, so on the flip side of that, there was another area, Mr. Brown and I, Mayor Brown and I met with the residents up in Shamrock Drive. And they've been flooded out for how many years? And they had the engineering done when former Deputy Mayor Cody was their counselor. And it was in the paper that it was gonna get done, and then it stopped, and it was never followed up on.
That was
So-
stormwater management issue.
So this is the stormwater, we're getting into that next, but that was under engineering. The engineering was done for that as well, was it not? Cause it was ready to move
It was,
forward,
yeah.
but it stopped.
Chief
So
engineer at the time told us it was done.
that's right. So I'm just asking if we could look at that again. I mean, those were the two issues that we've done the work and it's been put aside. So we're asking here now to see if we can come forward with that.
Make it happen.
Continuing on in that sidewalk, there were a few specific projects that had been listed in the past, that they're hopefully completed and you don't see any money there. The new construction, last year the budget was 3 million. I'm estimating, that maybe about 1.8 of that will not be completed this year. Carry that over into the 5-year plan that, Public Works have been looking at, which is probably for next year over 300 or over 3 million anyway. That brings us to a $6 million per the 5-year plan. Budgeting that out brings us to a $6 million project next year. And per the 5-year plan, about $4 million or $4.5 million into future years. Look to get those going forward, try and get tenders out early in the season, try and get work completed within the season.
Okay.
Stormwater, large culvert replacement, just a line that looks like it's disused anymore, but still in the financial system, so shown there. The equipment is work by, or tools by the union, that's a little under, well, 18,000, do an inflationary increase there. Pipe and catch basin material, it's $275,000 to a $300,000 item annually that the city uses to do minor repairs here and there. An infill and repairs item, $250,000 that the city utilizes both ourselves and maybe small jobs for contractors. And then stormwater management is larger jobs via contractors. Off the top of my head, I can't tell you why I bumped it from quarter million to a $500,000. But that is the larger projects, like if there was a Shamrock Drive, then it was designed that we could get out to tender, we would try to do.
Stormwater, I may as well bring it up now, because I'll be getting the phone calls again. When we put in catch basins back in the day, like I'm talking about, Emerald Drive and a few other places that I've been getting phone calls on. Now all of a sudden we're told that we're not allowed in private property to go clean them out. But we installed them years ago, I don't know when it was, and then the city built up, and now their backyards are being flooded. If the people are willing to let our public works go in there and see if it's just blocked or what's going on, or they're cleaning it out, why is that not being allowed? Since we put them in, we should be maintaining them. Am I correct? And Joey and I talked with this for years, like there's one in Sunset and there's another one here and there, and I got a lot of phone calls last year.
I guess from the management perspective, it'd be a little akin to 2 wrongs don't make a right. and why I've long heard, been around for 30 years, I've heard about these things, and some of them
You remember the old ditch filling days?
predeceased my time,
You were
and
rich.
hopefully not too many of them occurred in my time. But why did we go in and do stormwater management in your backyard and on the public dime and not do it in mine? The historic information is, yes, the city came in and they did this, but an easement wasn't granted to the city, and my comment has probably been, you're very lucky that the city paid for that and didn't do it for your neighbor, but
But they're not
it was
working,
gifted to you and now you've got it.
but they're not working. Like the one
So
in Emerald Drive.
if my
needless to say,
downspout isn't working, I need to fix it or hire a contractor to fix my downspout.
So these people, when they call me in the spring, I just say, you got, that you're on your own and you gotta go ahead and hire someone to do it. Because they're saying the city installed them.
No, I don't care.
And it becomes the liability issues and the terms of reference of us as the public works department. We really need to try and stick to the public right of way. And
Somebody's gotta
as
get a
much
phone
as they allow us to come in, but our backhoe accidentally turns and knocks the gazebo down, they're
Oh,
probably
I-
not gonna say, oh, don't worry about it.
I understand, I understand the liability, but their argument to me on the phone and in their emails is that you installed them.
Yeah.
So now they're backed up and my backyard is being
And-
flooded,
Yeah.
and we're willing to let
Yeah.
Public Works go in and do it. They're saying, we will even sign a waiver. But I'm saying, well, this is what I'm being told. And I know I'm gonna be getting emails and phone calls again this spring.
I don't imagine, people aren't gonna be happy with me, but I don't imagine the city identified a problem in somebody's backyard and told them, we're gonna come in here and fix it. I imagine we were called and requested to come look at something and
Well, they
do
go through
something.
us first,
Yeah.
that's the thing.
They'd come to the city, I'm not pointing fingers at
No,
anyone,
no,
they'd
no.
come to the city and request that something happened. And like I say, the city in those days gifted them something in their backyard. It's now their gift, they can do with it as they wish.
So my
That's where
response
we
to
need
them
to-
in the spring is to get a hold of Public Works.
That's where we need to stand today. Times have changed,
Yeah.
that's where we need to stand
And they're
today
gonna say, well,
with
you're my
the
representative.
demands upon us and the liabilities upon us and the work that we do.
Okay.
Any data on that phone? Would you have any data that we could refer to, or is it just oral data?
It's generally just oral data.
Okay.
Okay, because, because I know a lot of their comments was even last year. You're our representative, you're our counselor. Why, and I'm not getting anywhere with these people, so, I don't know. I just thought I'd throw it out there, so maybe we'll have to wait for the spring and
Wait for the calls.
wait for the calls and emails again.
Capital budget fleet, this is our last section. Public Works helps out with the procurement for police, recreation, police and recreation, as well as our own large and small fleet. Police and recreation just have small fleet. We're also going to transfer fire small fleet over to the Public Works Department this year. They budgeted their own last year, but we'll take that over and they'll reduce their budget. Fire will continue to look after their own large fleet, that's ladder trucks and the such. These are the half-ton trucks that their inspectors drive around. May have been some miscues last year and funding being put in the proper accounts, and I was hopefully trying to correct it this year. There's also, as you can see, a carryover of Public Works large fleet that we don't think's gonna get delivered before the end of the fiscal that will pay out of next year. I think there was also some issues last year that the full Public Works request staff have developed. We won't get into it, but some firms will offer you their services whereby they'll say, here's set criteria, you operate this vehicle for 5 years and then you replace it. Staff have utilized that in-house to say, we've got 10 vehicles this year that are 5 years old, they need to be replaced, this is the cost. So it's not just, here's the money, what can we do with it, it's, here's what we need to do, how much is it going to cost. doing that, and if there was no money issued to Public Works last year to replace 5 vehicles, you could only replace 3. Now the 5 we need to replace this year has become 7. So you'll see some increases there in the request that we have for fleet. And hopefully self-explanatory that, like I say, may have overlooked something in police and fire last year, or I guess they were in, that was it. Police and fire numbers were put in large fleet, they really should be in small fleet. So you see me with values last year in large and nothing in small, but nothing in large and now in small. And then the Public Works small and large fleet and pulling over the fire, so. Like I say, do have, when you get to council, I can tell you that in the rec department, it's replacement of 2 trucks and new 1 and that sort of thing. We do have some detail behind all of that. Thanks to staff that have provided that to me.
That was very detailed.
That was detailed. Operational.
Oh, just before we do that,
Yes,
Are you doing
sir.
operational today?
I just wanted to, again, you don't have the final number there, but we,
Here another hour, will we?
I didn't think we're doing operational today.
It's, you can say.
There is another meeting in here.
Pardon me?
There is another meeting coming up in this room as well.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have time for operational.
so,
Is that okay with everybody?
we budgeted 33,479,000.
It's at 2:30, but there is another one.
Yeah.
Yes.
Will you have the forecast, the actual sometime in the next couple of months
Yes,
or
please.
next month?
We'll try and get it a forecast, your worship. Obviously, the fiscal year isn't over
No, I
until
know,
March
I know,
31st. And
I know.
obviously, invoices don't come in until April
some-
and May.
Hold up with that?
Some
But
bills,
we'll try to get better. I don't know, finance, finance has a spreadsheet and I haven't been able to figure it out. Finance can obviously pull out the checks that have gone out the door.
Right.
There's still onus on management to say, I know a check's gonna, or an invoice is gonna come in the next 6 weeks, and sometimes it's big dollars that some of these things are, but we need to, I don't know what's going to be on the presentation to committee of the whole from finance in terms of forecast.
right,
They, like I say, they'll probably give you the checks that have gone out the door and tell you that the manager has not indicated to them that there's another $1 million worth of work done, that we're waiting on the invoice.
so for the 25-26, are you looking at the same as last year, 33 million, do you know that? For your budget for have you, your spread, like your Excel, I can't,
You can't see that, so I'll look right here. What I understand, and this is my spreadsheet, cause it looks a little easier than the financial one.
right,
I understand that Public Works had a $34.5 million budget last year. And right now I've created a draft request of 45.
million.
Like I say, I know at least 1.2 there is gonna be a carryover. And I know at least 1.8 there, so that's $3 million that are carried over. So if we spent everything, we really only spent 31 last year, and we're really only, or well, if we said we spent 34 last year, we're really only asking for 42 this year.
Okay, okay. And of that 45, do you know how much is less external partner funding? You don't know that yet either.
All of those numbers that I've thrown in there are
Just the raw
whole
numbers.
city costs.
Yeah.
And I don't, city costs. If there is funding partners, that would push the money up.
Okay,
But when we show our funding, it'd bring the number back down to it again.
okay. And just the last question, under fleet management,
Yes?
there is no more, the contract with Enterprise Fleet Management, are we still weaning that out?
My understanding is the contract is over. Like I say, our staff have taken what fleet management would do and tried to enact the same policy of replacing vehicles. We don't obviously have the reach and the knowledge, not the knowledge, we don't have the reach that a national company would have to ask questions and get help and that sort of thing, but certain things like you should operate a half-ton truck for 5 years, regardless of whether it got damaged 5 times or is rusted out. This is the time to replace it. That is the philosophy they are using to create, like I say, in the fleet, we're not saying, give us $4 million and we'll figure out how to spend it. they're saying if we replace all our half-ton trucks after 5 years, we need to replace 18 this year, and we think the market is gonna charge us $60,000 each, therefore, this is the budget we need.
Yeah, so you're just using their rationale
Yes.
to replace the fleet, but they're not replacing them for us.
Enterprise PEI, our relationship is terminated,
Okay, thank you,
as far as I'm aware.
thank you, sir,
Thank you for that, Paul.
Confident in that.
thank you.
So,
Richard?
just if I may, your chair, the operational budget, did circulate a, quick document in our tender package. Council can look at that, the committee can look at that, if they have any questions, they can reach out to me directly. And your chair, you can decide whether we're able to have a sit down and go over that before you see it as committee of the whole. Or whether internal and one-on-ones is good enough and, we don't need to meet again on that.
Not a problem. Is that good with everybody? Richard, you have a comment?
Yeah, and that's just what I was gonna suggest, cause looking at it, it looks like Paul tried status quo and there's not a lot of changes if you look
No.
across the years. So just so that you have that opportunity, just in
Sure.
case there's not great timing for you to have another committee meeting before you see it again as a full council.
Yeah, okay.
And in operational, if I may, your chair, it is that we are supposed to do status quo, and if that means that the cost for somebody went from $15 to $16, then our budget goes up by
That's
a
right.
buck sort of thing. But if we're gonna hire an extra person, we need to do that as a new initiative or have more equipment or whatever. So in that, where's my report? Hopefully in my report, I indicated that yes, it's a status quo budget. I do have 2 or 3 new initiatives. Don't know that I directly said them, but if I can find my daily operations. New initiatives, just to quickly say it, there was, the inventory of grass cutting needs increases. We were looking for a new grass crew. Some of the items become capital if we're purchasing mowers for them, but the staff and their hourly wages and the gas becomes operational. So our new initiatives were another gas crew, another patching crew as we take over what had been, or what the water and sewer department digs up. They were patching, but departments have talked, they found it was more operationally efficient that Public Works do it. We would need another patch crew if we were going to fulfill that, or else the existing patching we were doing falls a little to the wayside. Those were the only 2 new initiatives I had so far in our operational budget. Thank you.
Budget for 24-25 is 18.3 million, you're going up to 19.5, correct? At the top, I'm looking at the top,
At
for operational.
Correct, that is for Public Works.
Yep.
You'll have to flip down to the bottom to see municipal building side, where it goes from 2.5 million to 2.5 million. It's $100,000 and 2.5, which is 4%.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your detail, Paul. Introduction of new business. Councillor Drawn, you have something?
Yeah, I had 2 quick questions. A lady phoned me just on my way over, and she said Maritime Electric had asked the PEI and the city in general to reduce our electricity costs. And she asked, why are all the Christmas lights still going on? She comes downtown, and I said, well, I'll bring it up under new business and ask, is that something that we can be doing, is to turn our Christmas lights off? Is that something that you can do, Bob?
We can certainly do that, I don't know, thank you for the reminder, I know downstairs, there's a switch that keeps the lights on outside here that I'm monitoring. Don't know what operational staff had for a turn off date on that, but we can turn them off early if that is.
There is a process too where we change from Christmas into our festival. So we have Jack Frost and things like that, so we incorporate some of our festive lights into the other festivals.
And
So
I
that's
think,
why you see some of them up, some are coming down being replaced with shooting stars and things.
And I think getting back to Councillor Drawn's question was, we talked about this earlier, is just that Maritime Electric put a press release out, right?
Yep.
And it's sort of cut back, and then all of a sudden when somebody sees all these lights on, because of the cold weather, that's like yesterday and today and tomorrow. But that's right across the world too.
She said they're very beautiful, it looks very, very nice, but after that notice last night, she just says, how come you're on it? And I was like, well, I'll ask, I don't know.
And it is something, Councillor Durand, that it's not one switch.
One big switch.
And it's supposed to be warm on Friday again.
Oh.
But certainly if we've got Christmas trees that are lit, we can look to try and find the plug and pull them. Maybe not get the lights off the trees yet, but see what we can do to mitigate. We are obviously as well using low energy lights as much as possible, but it's still energy. Here
Do you have a second
Here are
question,
the
Councillor Durand?
Second question was a resident asked me about his wife was driving a car up on, in front of Holland College, they hit a pothole, they phoned, cause he asked me, do you cover potholes? I said, I'm not sure, but call Public Works, which they did. They got the answer that, which one was it? Was it, water or was it, Public Works? Cause there's 2 potholes out there. So, he called, they were very nice, staff was very helpful. Gave him the application, he went, they said you had to take a picture of the hole, which he did. There was extra time, pick up his application, put it in. Found out that the company paid for $300 or something on his tire, but there was $36 outstanding. And then he was told that we don't cover potholes. So my ask is, should it be yes or no? That we cover potholes that incur damage to residents? Is there a guideline there that we could help? You know, why would we go to all the trouble of filling out an application, taking pictures, and then be told no?
Probably not the exact place to do it, but there used to be, Amber, when we handed out a claim form, we gave them also a sheet that was sort of a frequently asked questions, gave you an idea that if you hit a pothole and we weren't aware of it, we might not be covering it. Do we still hand that out?
Yeah.
So that would have gone out with the application form. It does give people a heads up in terms of, if I look at it and go, oh, they're asking me to do 3 hours worth of work, is it gonna be worth my while? Gives them a little indication. Potholes, we are responsible for street maintenance and we do our best. There are going to be potholes that occur. They're gonna occur when we're not looking and not there. If we're aware and are negligent in not dressing something that is hazardous that we know about, then we are helping people out with their claims. But if we weren't aware of it, drove by, and sometimes it's drove by 3 days ago and everything looked good, but somebody last night hit a pothole, then we weren't aware, and you know, we're not monitoring all the streets all the times. We weren't aware and we're not negligent for that, have gone through various legal channels over the years. We've got a duty to a certain level, but we're not negligent for everything that happens, so.
Which I fully understand, but in this case, if he was told, well, which one did you hit? You know, so they were, you know, whoever answered the phone was aware, is it Public Works or is it Water and Sewer? And he said, well, I don't know, but this is the one, so he went and took a picture. And like, he was thinking that it was gonna be, it's his wife's car, $3,000. It ends up being $300, he had insurance, but it was for the 36. So I'm thinking, well, I don't know, I'll just ask, because I've never dealt with this question before. But if you knew which one, like if we were aware, which one did you hit, well, why wouldn't we fix it? You know what I mean?
Well, we would have fixed it after the fact, but we need all the information before we can make a determination. So, was it a Public Works pothole? Public Works wasn't aware of it, we're not liable for it. Was it a different Public Works pothole that we're aware of and we said, we'll get it later? We are liable for it. Similarly, was it Public Works? Joey, what's going on there? Was it a utility? We need to contact the utility department and say, did you guys do a dig? Did you fill it back in properly? Were you coming back later? You did fill it in, but you don't know why, but all your fill material got removed somehow. You weren't aware. And that is whereby when we hand out the claim form, we give them that sheet that indicates if at the end of the day we weren't aware of this for potholes, we're probably not going to be paying it. But if they say, you know, I don't want no for an answer right now, I want you to review it, then we need all the information to review. We need to figure out which hole it was, so that, was it the one we were aware of, or was it the one we were not aware of? And you're asking for $500, we need to see your receipts that you actually had to pay $500, and there becomes a lot of onus on the person putting in the claim, and the claim may be denied.
Okay, that's a lot of information I wasn't able to give him, right? I said, well, just call and see and take a picture and then he's like, well, okay, anyways.
That's good for all of us to, you
Yeah, yeah,
know, understand
good
that too.
idea, right?
Okay,
Appreciate it, thank you.
a motion to adjourn. Moved by Councilor Drawn, second by your worship. Thank you, everybody.